Hi, good morning everyone, and for today's lesson we will be talking about the principles of effective writing. Various factors must be considered to determine and identify the effectiveness of a specific text or particular text. A composition can either be paragraph or an essay. So when we say paragraph, this contains interrelated sentences that contain main idea, while an essay is a group of paragraphs that talks about one central idea. I will be projecting a table that shows you the differences of paragraph and an essay. A paragraph is organized around a topic sentence. It also contains an introductory sentence. A paragraph also uses sentences to explain its major points or detail. And a paragraph uses concluding sentences. Alright, so if you have connected your sentences, if you have connected sentences, you can create or formulate a paragraph. And take note that it should have a main idea or a main topic. Meanwhile, in essay is organized around a thesis statement. So a thesis statement is much longer compared to a topic sentence. It also contains an introductory paragraph. It also uses paragraph to explain arguments or major point. Always uses a concluding paragraph. So if you're going to take a look at the table, it simply shows that an essay is more comprehensive and longer compared to paragraph. And an essay is composed of paragraphs. So from sentences to paragraphs, and from paragraphs to essay. So now let's talk about the three major parts of a paragraph. First, we have the topic sentence, the body, and the closing sentence. When we say topic sentence, it talks about the main idea of a paragraph or the central thought of a specific paragraph. Sometimes it may stand as a question, and most of the time it can be statement. So the body is composed of supporting details that supports the argument that you have presented on the main idea or the topic sentence. In the closing sentence, it concludes the information or the arguments that you have presented in the text. And also in a paragraph, we have what we call cohesive devices. And cohesive devices are pronouns or conjunction and other transitional devices that shows how parts of the text are connected to one another. An essay has a more elaborate structure, so it is more comprehensive, it is more broad, and it is longer. Same thing with paragraph, it is also divided into three major parts. First, we have introduction, the body, and the conclusion. In introduction, in writing, it is important for you to know or to use a wonderful lead or a creative lead in order for you to get the attention of the readers. So it is like clickbaiting when it comes to videos. Like we are going to create a wonderful thumbnail so that the viewers can click your video immediately once they saw your thumbnail. So the lead is the first statement in your essay, and it is very important because it will enable your readers to connect to what you are talking about. It aims to hook the readers. Alright, so you can create your lead by making a rhetorical question, and startling statement. It can also be an anecdote, a quotation, a humor, or an analogy. And after making your lead, this is being followed by transitional statement. Now let's talk about transitional statement. Links the lead to the thesis statement or to your topic. A transitional statement provides a background on the topic. And the last part of introduction is the thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement states the central idea or argument of the essay. So let's proceed to the body. So the body is the meat of the essay. It is being called the meat of the essay because it discusses everything. It is where you give your arguments. It is where you discuss the thesis statement or central idea. It is where the topic is being developed and the arguments are being discussed or laid out. For the body, you can use major points. Body, you can use major point 1, major point 2, major point 3. For major part 1, that is already considered as one paragraph. So with that major point 1, you can have at least 2 to 3 minor details into that major point as your paragraph, and so on. And after that, you can now proceed to your major point 2, to be followed by your minor points or supporting details to what you are talking about on that paragraph. Alright, so the last part of the essay is the conclusion. In concluding a paragraph, it actually begins with restating the thesis statement or the topic. And this is to be followed by transitional statement. So transitional statement talks about the recommendations, the benefit, or the purpose of writing the essay or the composition. And of course, last but not the least, we have the closing statement. It is used to wrap or to conclude everything that you have written. And a great strategy to end an essay is to connect or to link your closing statement to the introduction or to your lead. Now let's talk about the properties of a well-written text. Alright, so knowing the different parts and components of an essay will help you to develop your comprehension, your knowledge of the aspects that make a well-written text, and will enable you to ensure the quality of your work and effectively communicate your message. Let's proceed to unity. So a unified text means all the supporting ideas of the text are relevant to the main thought or main idea of the sentence. So without unity, a composition will be hard to comprehend, and at the same time, it will confuse the reader. So when we say coherence and cohesion, this means that logically, clearly, and smoothly linked to one another. Without it, your readers cannot understand or comprehend what you have written. So these two are interrelated, but also they are distinct. So when we say coherence, it occurs when ideas are connected at the conceptual level or idea level. So it can be seen to a well-defended argument and organized point. Meanwhile, in cohesion, it is the connection of the ideas in a sentence level. So you should know the difference between coherence and cohesion, because cohesion can already be seen in the text through a smooth flow of sentences. We have 3 techniques in applying cohesion. One is the use of pronouns to refrain from using specific words repeatedly. So instead of saying the name of the person, for example, Jamaica Manuel, why not use a pronoun like she, right? Or her. Second is the use of transitional devices. And lastly, the repetition of the keywords to tie up the paragraph. Right, second is the organization. It can be achieved when your ideas are logically and accurately arranged. So it talks about how it is being organized. Is it really organized well? Right, so it usually talks about the arrangement of your sentence, how your sentence or your paragraph is arranged. Right, so knowing the framework of an essay will also help you to organize your composition. So it is important for you to know the framework or the introduction, the body, and the conclusion so that you can create an organized composition. Next, we have the language use. It refers to the writer's way of communicating his ideas. So is he delivering or communicating his or her ideas well on the composition? If not, therefore, he uses a good language. But if not, it might confuse the readers. Alright, so one principle in language use is by simply using concise and simple words. So on an average, a sentence should only contain 18 words. But take note that this doesn't mean that every sentence should have 18 words. But take note that this does not require you to create a sentence that has 18 words. Second is to avoid redundancy, highfalutin words or language, and cliche. Next is to use a precise vocabulary. You should be accurate and you should condense lengthy passages or lengthy phrases into just fewer words. It is important to be consistent with your viewers' pronoun. Next is you should be consistent with your pronouns' point of view. Alright, so how does it work? So in your first sentence, if you used we, now use we on the second sentence so that you are consistent in using your pronouns. So don't do this. We should accept for the first sentence and then you are going to make you in the second sentence. So that is not acceptable. So you should use consistent pronouns. So if you're going to use we on the first sentence, then you use we on the succeeding sentences as your pronoun. Next is to avoid sexist language. But this can be addressed by using his or her instead of using his, or using the gender-neutral pronouns. So when we say gender-neutral pronouns, instead of chairman, you use the word chairperson. So I'll be providing you an example for this. Instead of using this sentence, every employee should submit his credentials. So in order for us to improve this, we should transcribe the sentence by avoiding the use of sexist language, by simply changing his to their. So it can be all employees should submit their. And lastly, you should use an appropriate level of formality. So in a formal text, you should use an academic tone, while for the less formal, you can use colloquial or a personal tone. So let's take a look at this example. So instead of using this sentence, you are going to change the word cool into fascinating to make it more formal, because cool can sometimes be used in colloquial or in informal way of communicating. Alright, so that's it for today's lesson, and we have talked about the principles of effective writing, the differences between paragraph and an essay, the three major parts of the paragraph, the three general parts of the essay, and the properties of a well-written text. So I hope guys that you have learned something for today's lesson, and I'll see you guys in our next lesson.